All right. Good day, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Wallace Way. And this week is a very special edition. I have one of the most influential, powerful brothers on social media right now. I, and the way this all came about was due to his just graciousness of reaching out to up and coming podcast and YouTube host. And it was a blessing. It really is a blessing. So with no further ado, let me introduce Mr. Curtis Scoon. How are we doing today, good sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me, man. And there I did. I absolutely wanted to try to help brothers with their platforms because someone helped me.
I love it. I love it. Let me give you a quick rundown of this brother. He is an author, a TV producer, and I like to call him a social media authenticator because he's the real deal. You know, social media is a kind of a nebulous place where there's a lot of drama and there's a lot of like people just it's kind of corny social media, but it's needed today, especially. But once in a while, you come across these people that are just real. They have an authentication to them, and you don't even have to really like or love what they're saying, but you respect it because it's coming from a point of realness, and that's what Mr. Scoon has definitely given off. So let's start from the beginning. You grew up in Hollis, Queens, right, sir?
Yes, I did.
Tell
Queens
me,
native.
yes, sir. Tell me more about that, because all we know Hollis is, of course, with Run DMC, Ja Rule, all the most of the rappers and stuff that we all grew up listening to.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is that Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island were once known as Long Island because it is a Long Island. There's no separation between Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island by water. To go to Manhattan from Brooklyn to Queens, you got to cross a bridge. To go to the Bronx, you got to cross a bridge. New York City is like a collection of islands. But those well, Long Island, Brooklyn, and Queens are one landmass. So the way how it works is that life usually starts in the city for people, and as they move up economically, they kind of move out to the burbs.
Mm-hmm.
So at one time, Queens was considered like a suburb, and now Long Island is the suburb. And I say that to say that, generally speaking, when people move to New York City from down south or they migrated from foreign countries, they would end up in Manhattan or Brooklyn or the Bronx because the rent was cheaper, especially in Brooklyn and the Bronx.
Okay.
And then when they made some money, they would move out to Queens. So to sum it all up, Queens had a reputation of being a little bit not as hood as the other places.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was when the drugs came, the drug dealers in Queens tended to make more money, whereas the people in the hardcore inner city were relying on welfare money and stuff like that. First and the 15th, people in Queens had jobs.
Mm.
And the more affluent your clientele, the more money you stand to make. So the drug dealers in Queens, they started making a name for themselves. And that kind of changed Queens. And that really took place in the 80s with crack.
Mm.
And some of the biggest names in black drug dealers came out of Queens because of that reason. That I'm not here boasting about that. I'm just explaining the dynamic of why they were outstanding and distinguished themselves. And that really led to me producing on television and so on and so forth, because I was the sole contributor of a book called Queens Reign Supreme.
I was going to get into that by
Ethan Brown,
Ethan
yes.
Brown. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I pitched the idea to Ethan. Ethan had tried to get several book deals prior, and he had never succeeded. He
Mm.
was a writer at New York Magazine. He had reached out to me previously to get an exclusive about my implication in Jam Master Jay's death, but I didn't know how it could work for me. So I ended up going with Playboy, and they let me write a 1,000-word sidebar called "Framed and Defamed."
Hold that thought, sir, because you're actually going down my whole script. I got these bullet points. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hit on that. I'm gonna hit on that. This, and you just going through it. So, all right. So let's. Okay. So take it from Queens, from Hollis, Queens.
Yes.
And
I grew up with Run and DMC and Jay.
Okay.
Run and DMC, we were in the same class from like 2nd grade to eighth grade.
Wow.
We went to a Catholic school called St. Pascal's, Baylon. And Jay, he went to public school. We went to 134, 192, and then he went to Andrew Jackson. So he went to all the local district schools. Run went to Andrew Jackson High School, as did LL Cool J.
Wow.
DMC went to
royalty. I mean, these are
I think Salt and Pepper went there too, one of them or two of them or something, but DMC went to Rice High School, which was a Catholic high school in Harlem at the time.
Okay.
I think Felipe Lopez, I don't know if you remember him.
Definitely, man. Felipe was it before it. If Felipe was out during the social media era, he'd be massive.
Yeah, so he's a alumna of Rice, but I went to Brooklyn Tech, so I kind of like got different exposure because I started moving around. But anyway, I went to Catholic school, so did Run, so did DMC, and we were pretty tight as kids, the three of us. After once we got to high school, everybody kind of went their separate ways. We went to different schools and stuff like that. Run would still, I would see him around, and he would tell me about what's going on with his brother. Russell used to promote college parties, and he had there was rappers like a guy named Eddie Chiba that most of y'all would probably never know.
From the Bronx, right?
Yeah, I think he was from the Bronx. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, man.
Hip hop to me is like it's literally my first love, and it's the only thing that really has maintained throughout as I've grown up, that has just always been there for me, and like the whole Def Jam era and that stuff, I just respect it so much, because those are the forefathers, the pillars who really created this art now that we see. And I just got so much respect for them as a man of history. I love knowing my history. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm gonna give you some history then.
Yes, sir.
One of the main acts that was making Russell some money was Curtis Blow.
Okay.
Right? These Are the Breaks and all that. So Russell used to throw parties at a place called the Hotel Diplomat in Times Square, and Fantasia in Queens and other places. But I specifically remember a flyer that Run had showed me. It said, featuring Curtis Blow and his disco son, DJ Run. See, what a lot of people don't really know is that rap was primarily influenced by disco.
Okay.
Nobody wants to own up to that, but disco was really popular in the late 70s and early 80s. It started dying out, but one of the most well-known clubs, renowned hip-hop clubs in New York, was in the Bronx, and it was called the Disco Fever.
Yep.
The Fat Boys were known as the Disco 3. You understand? Disco played a big part in hip hop that nobody wants to own, because it's like, disco is trash and all that.
Right.
Disco heavily influenced rap. And there used to be some records that you could buy vinyl with just the break beats. And it was called Super Disco Breaks. You understand what I'm saying? Disco was everywhere. Right now, everybody says, "Oh no, rap came from the streets," and this, that, the other. The amazing thing is that back then, the artists didn't even talk about crime or violence, and that was actually the most violent period in urban American history. And none of the rappers was talking about it in their music. You see,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where they were from, it was going on. The music was more about having fun and escaping from the violence. So it's kind of ironic that when those murder rates and all that dropped, the music became so violent. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow, I never thought of it like that. That's crazy.
because I watched the whole thing change. And the reason why we called the book Queens Reign Supreme, well, I came up with the title,
Mm-hmm.
is because KRS-One had came out the gate dissing Queens.
Yes,
The
sir.
bridge is over.
That's on my list. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, look, the bridge is over, right? And his name, KRS-One, stands for Knowledge Reigns
Reign
Supreme
over
nearly everyone.
Yes, sir.
So I called the book Queens Reign Supreme as a rebuttal to him. Because, it's funny, like when you're not from New York and you learn about a city from entertainers, you don't even realize that what you're getting is just an idea that they have in their head, because most of them weren't really on the forefront like that. That's why they wasn't talking about that stuff. You know what I mean? Because back then it was a different time. Not just in New York. I'm talking about everywhere, every city, DC, Baltimore. The '80s was insane. Compared to now. So you don't want to draw that kind of attention to yourself unnecessarily. So anyway, that club, the Disco Fever, there's numerous pictures of Queens in the house. I was there a couple of nights, and DJ Starchild, who was the house DJ, they was paying homage to Queens in the Bronx. We went up there and took the spot over on the nights that we were there. You understand? So when I hear somebody like KRS say Queens is always faking it, I'm like, but this guy was sleeping in cars, man. What does he know? You know what I mean? Like, yo. So, and it's nothing personal, but that was just my little jab at him. But I really think Queens influenced the world through hip hop, because rap didn't start in Queens. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But the Queens took rap global.
Mm-hmm.
Queens changed rap. If you look at Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, or even Africa Bambaataa and Soul Sonic Force, they wore costumes. They wanted to be the village people. They wanted to be Parliament Funkadelic.
Right,
Queens is who came out with the street clothes and the big chains and all that, because they were emulating the drug dealers that I started talking about in the beginning of this podcast. So the drug dealers in Queens set the standard for the artists that came out of Queens, who changed the world through music. It was Queens rappers who first headlined tours in arenas, making it possible for people to make the kind of money they make today. It was Queens artists that started with all the bling and all that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Melly Mel them used to wear those little chains, little tight chains choking their neck. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they were different. The Queens represented the streets, and there was also Queens artists that got the first endorsement deals, which are big for all rappers today, to get endorsement deals. So yeah, Queens. I'm not a rapper, but when you think of the talent and the innovation, ingenuity that came out of Queens, it had a substantial impact on the whole world through hip hop. Queens didn't create rap, but we turned it into a billion-dollar business. Before there was Puff Daddy and Bad Boy, there was Russell Simmons and Def Jam.
Sir.
Before there was RZA and the Wu-Tang Clan, there was Marley Marl and the Juice Crew. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yo, we gave everybody the template. So now 30 years later, everybody's talking about who run this and run that. But no disrespect to anybody, and I like music from all over, but you cannot say that somebody from New York is trying to be like you when you are rapping, which in effect is really you trying to be like New York, because that's our thing. In this area, y'all got go-go. Could you imagine a go-go band from Michigan talking trash about backyard or something like that. And
Nah,
that's what it sounds like. Could you imagine a reggae band from South Africa talking trash about Bob Marley? You understand what I'm saying? So when I hear people who's not from New York talking trash about New York rap, I think you gotta go to the scripture. Honor your mother and father so that your days may be long. We birthed you people. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, there it is. But anyway, that's enough of the hip hop history.
no. I mean, it's. I always tell people like when you look at just Queens as a borough, it has the most talent, like from top to bottom, on a continuous basis. Like even schools
Kwame, salt
like
and
a
pepper, Kid and Play. The
like
bridge
a
is
Nicki
another.
Minaj. Even
Yo,
today, she's
yo, how many people came out of Queensbridge, man? Queensbridge by itself got more talent than most cities. You understand what I'm saying? Queensbridge by itself. And you got to understand the way Queens is set up. The bridge is a different world from where I'm from.
mm,
Like, we don't even like Far Rockaway's in Queens, but we don't, they're like a whole different world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, going to Far Rockaway or going to Queensbridge, like going to a different borough for us. You know what I mean? Like, that's how big New York City is, man. Like,
yeah.
that you got subcultures within each borough. You know what I mean? But yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. So you was touching on that notorious Playboy article, framed and deframed. Kind of unpack that a little bit.
Well, as some of your viewers may know or may not know, I was wrongfully accused of killing Jam Master Jay in 2002. And and by the way, there's two suspects that were arrested last year. I
Mm-hmm.
just received some documents today that showed that one of the eyewitnesses went to the grand jury years ago and ID'd one of these people, and for some reason, the prosecutors never charged them. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, nobody ever cleared my name. So they left this cloud over my head for 18 years. You know what I mean? So I gotta deal with that, but I'm waiting for the trial to be over to see what my legal options are. But yes, I was wrongfully accused, and I tried to figure a way to use it to my advantage. So one of the things that I firmly believe is that a blessing and a curse are one and the same. The
Mm.
difference being in the application. So this thing happened already. I can't undo it. I can't unwrongfully accuse myself.
Right.
So I gotta try to find a way to make it work. That's just how I am and who I am. So Playboy had a submission form to submit articles, and I wanted Playboy for the same reason why I have ScoonTV.com and I make a film like Black, White, and Blue. Everything that I do is always to speak to people in position. You won't make a lot of money per se off of sales because that number is small. But if you get on the radar of those people, all kinds of doors may open for you. So back to Playboy.
Mm.
I reached out to them and I said, look, I don't have an article to submit. I got something better. I was accused of killing Jam Master Jay, and I haven't talked to anyone, not even the police, but I'll talk to you. So the features editor, Chris Napolitano, he responded and he said, this is one of the more curious emails I have ever received. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Right.
And so we were going back and forth. We were sparring. And I know the game, man. In case a lot of people don't really understand, when you're dealing with people in position, they're constantly sizing you up intellectually, seeing where you are with your etiquette and all of these things, how well you present yourself, because you may not be aware, but they automatically start thinking, they categorize you. So I knew Chris was checking me. He was
Mm-hmm.
checking me to see where I was. And he got so comfortable in his correspondences with me because I write pretty well. And look, I was giving him that work because I know I had to get his attention and respect. You know what I mean? And it don't mean that I was using a lot of circumlocution and all that, but I was very good with my words. So then he got on the phone with me, and then once you get on the phone with me, I'm a spitter. I start spitting. You know what I'm saying? So the way I spit and the way I write is completely different, but you can see the same intellect in both. So I'm giving him that work, and he said, "You know what, Curtis? I want to do this story, but I'm not the one to pitch it. Nobody better to pitch this story than you." So he set up a conference call with people in L.A. and New York and I think Chicago. And I got on the phone, didn't know who I was talking to, and I told him my story. And when I was finished, I'll never forget because I was walking around with a wife beater on in my boxes. And I, I'm an older dude, so I got the old school boxes. I don't have a box of briefs, you know what I mean? So I'm like, and when I finished, all I heard was, "Wow, what a story." And somebody said, "Wow, what a life." And I said, "I got these motherfuckers." Look at so anyway, they ran my story. But me being me, they assigned a writer, but I had to get paid though. So that's how I did the 1,000-word sidebar. I became a published writer in Playboy. I targeted Playboy because Brian Grazer had an option agreement with Playboy for their articles. You see, people say Playboy is porn. Playboy wasn't really porn. It doesn't even really, it's not graphic at all.
They've interviewed some of the great, that Malcolm X interview in Playboy is one of the greatest interviews I've ever read. The people got to check that one out.
A lot of people don't know these things. Because again, I don't really speak to people. And when I say speak to people, I don't mean on a personal level, but in my works. I aim high, man. I aim high. I want to talk to the bosses. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we could get with the consumers later, but I can't sell my ideas to consumers. I have to sell a product to consumers. And you got to sell your ideas to a boss because a boss can make it ready, a product for the consumer. So anyway, we ran the story. I found a way to get paid. And then Frank Owen, who wrote the story, he wanted to do a book, and he was like, "Scoon, I think we could do this," because he saw how I got everybody to get on camera. These guys are white. Most of the time, nobody in the hood will talk to him. I showed up in the hood a year after Jay was dead. And for the first time they saw me, and I just had everybody coming in the barbershop. And I posted up, and they were sitting out talking to Frank. And I made it look easy. A lot of times when you work with people and you make things look easy because it's so effortless for you, when they're vain and narcissistic, they think they're the reason why that's happening. So you don't get your full credit. And the reason why I mentioned that is because Frank offered me 10% of the royalties on the back end. Now, if you know anything about publishing, the advance is usually the only money you're going to see unless it's a bestseller.
Right.
So when he offered me 10% of the back end publishing, he really offered me nothing. And to add insult to injury, he suggested I could crash on his couch while we work on the book.
Wow, thanks.
Yeah, and I was like 39 at the time, right? So check. And these people are unbelievable, man. I mean, just people in general. All they see is their own needs and what they want. They don't understand that things have to be mutually beneficial in order for it to be successful. And it's because they overestimate their own value, contributive value, and they assign no value to what you do. And you cannot work with people, I don't care if they're black or white. You cannot work with people who have an inflated sense of self because they'll give you no credit whatsoever because it's all because of them. You understand what I'm saying? So, right. So anyway, I called Ethan, and he was more than eager because he couldn't get a book deal on his own. So I framed a book deal with him. I helped him with the pitch, and I mapped it out. And the reason why I did it is because I wanted to do the movie about Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols. I had written a script about him, and Officer Down 1013, the New York City Code for a cop shot. And I had finished that script 2 weeks before I was wrongfully accused. So that's why I went to Playboy, because of the Brian Grazer option. I was hoping I'd get my script off, man. I
Mm.
didn't. I didn't do it because I wanted attention. Yeah, I want to be in Playboy. I don't want to be nowhere unless it's beneficial for me, and I don't need my ego stroked. You dig what I'm saying? So
No doubt.
anyway,
No.
Ethan pitched the book. His agent Judd Laggy at ICM. We got the deal with Random House Knopf. I got 25% of the gross advance back end movie deal, overseas distribution and everything. And I negotiated that myself. So it worked out better for me. The book got a starred review in Publishers Weekly.
Yeah.
And the book was the reason why I end up producing on TV with American Gangster when they started, because in the first season, Fat Cat Nichols was one of the subjects.
Right. And you produced the Jamaican Posse one.
The Shower Posse, yes. If you really want to know the truth, I pretty much produced all of them. I just didn't get the credit for it. Because what happens in entertainment, right, especially because of this thing where everybody's obsessed with the streets, the people who really know how to do the work don't know anything about the streets.
Right. Right.
So they usually have to get a guy like me to do all the real work and explain to them what's what and what's important, because they don't know. They don't need, and they're scared of those people. When you think of the Shower Posse,
Yeah.
I mean, how many thousands of people were they accused of killing? And I was dealing with the boss, the American boss of the Shower Posse, Vivian Blake. I didn't know him, but I wrote him a letter. I was like, yo, y'all want the Shower Posse? They was like, yeah. But none of them would want to communicate with Vivian. They'd be scared to get him mad. You understand what I'm saying? So I wrote him, and he called me, and we got to talking, and we developed a rapport. So much so that even after he got released from prison and sent back to Jamaica, he would call me from Jamaica. You understand? Yeah, he would call me.
That's the thing. Not to cut you off, but that authentication that you have, and it's such a it's real. It's not even. It's just the way that you authenticate stuff. It just reminds me of like speaking with my uncle. That's what it really reminds me. That's why I'm so energized and juiced and smiling so much, because it just reminds my uncle. He passed away many years ago, but that era had this authentication, and you don't really find that too much today. And I don't know if it's just the times, the world's changed. So
one of the things Vivian told me was he knew from his first conversation with me that he could trust me. And after the show aired, he called me, because you got to realize he was getting ready to get released in America and sent back to Jamaica. Mm-hmm. If the show had been messed up, he could have lost his life as soon as he got back in Jamaica. So he put his life in my hands, right? And he called me, and that's when he was telling me how he knew he could trust me, and that I did such a good job by him, He said, boy, this American gangster, the best one yet. You know what I mean? And I told him, but also I know how to deal with guys like him. I made it clear to him. I said, listen, Vivian, I didn't do this because I love you or because I fear you. I did this because this is who I am. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And you got to make it clear to them. You can't give them any kind of energy that you were so scared you knew better than to do something different. I'm like, no, I wasn't scared of you, and I don't love you, my dude. The bottom line is, I did this because this is who I am. I'm not the guy that's going to tell anybody I'm going to do one thing and do something different. So it came from a place of respect like that, Yeah, respect for self. I've said it before in other interviews. But for me, the way people take pride in their material assets, I take pride in my reputation. My reputation is my credit score in life. You know, it don't come from Equifax and Experian or Trans, whatever, TransUnion. Look, my reputation is my credit score in life. And I protect my reputation fiercely. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah, for
And
sure.
I think that's I forgot what 48 laws of power that is, but it's guard your reputation with your life, because
Yeah,
that's
man.
really how much important it is.
It's
So
very important.
no doubt. So Mr. Schoon, let's kind of let's fast forward to
Go
currently
ahead.
now. You know what I mean? Because you already got the credentials, you're always solid. So how I met you was through the internet, through Twitter. I saw your work with Mr. Whitlock, Mr. Barrington, and I just saw you, and your tweets are incredible. And everyone, please go follow ScoonTV. It's one of the best feeds on social media. Tell me how you started ScoonTV.
I first joined Twitter in 2010. I joined under my name, Curtis Schoon. My original intention for being on social media was to drown out all the negative things about me. Because you got to
Mm,
realize, if you've been accused of murder, right, and you meet women, they Google your name. You go for a job, they may Google your name. And it was a deep desire to try to override what I knew would be attached to my name if people did a search. You can still see it, but you see so many other things. It makes me somewhat of an enigma. People can't pin me down now. You understand? And I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. So yeah, I started with Curtis Schoon. I had 100 followers tops, 105. And
mhm.
I didn't know how to really do it. I was trying to say, motivational quotes and all of this, but nobody gives a damn, because if they don't know you, it's like you're not even worth listening to. You understand? But one day I started in 2012. What was it, 2012? 2012 or 2013? 2012. I started what I call ScoonTV, where words paint pictures.
Mm,
And tweet after tweet, I was telling my life story.
mm,
And it was so gritty and so raw. I was picking up thousands of followers by the day. And it was no embellishment. And as a matter of fact, I avoided implicating myself directly in anything. But because I can write, I put it such a way. I had journalists, everybody followed me, and I didn't even know how to link tweets back then. And it was only, I think, 140 characters.
mhm, mhm,
And what happened was, I would take a break after I write for about a half hour, and I'll take a break, and people would be tweeting me talking about, "Yo, when's School TV coming back on?" You know what I mean? Like, so I had them. So somebody, that they had a thing called Storify. So they put my tweets into a Storify. And I
okay.
did this thing for I think it was like 6 weeks straight, just tweeting this out. And yo, I changed the way people tweet. I think there's some girls that got a TV deal or something from telling their story on Twitter and so on and so forth. So after I finished that, right, I was like, well, damn, what do I do now for an encore?
Mhm, mhm.
And that's when Trayvon Martin got killed,
Okay.
and Michael Brown, and Black Lives Matter came.
Freddie
And
Gray and
that's
all that.
yeah. So I started lending my voice to the issues, but they didn't like what I was saying,
Mm,
you know, because these people, and I was right back then, they called me all kind of coons and everything, but no, these people, they did not seem right. I interviewed a brother today, Tory Russell, out of Ferguson.
okay.
He referred to D-Ray as devil in a blue vest. You know what I mean? Like, yo, D-Ray McKesson. And
Mhm, mhm.
This prompted me to make the movie. That the poster's right behind me on the wall, black, white, and blue.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, you can go to my website, blackwhiteandbluefilm.com, or you can go to Amazon and get it 5 stars. Great film. But it forced me to get involved with clearing the air about what the issues were in the black community as I saw it. I
Mm.
see these little young kids. I have nothing against college graduates, but a lot of these people seem like they're kind of middle class and they're misrepresenting the concerns of people in the lower class, and which I'm very familiar with. I feel like black male trauma has become political currency
Mm.
for some duplicitous black people who seek to advance an agenda that has nothing to do with race or police brutality. But on the surface, they talk about police brutality. Meanwhile, they get all this momentum, this corporate sponsorship, donations, and all of this stuff, and they're fighting for a different set of issues. Now, I'm not going to say that those other people who feel like they deserve some kind of special attention are wrong. I will say you're wrong for exploiting the death of black people, claiming that you're going to take care of the issues that's affecting us, and then take the benefits somewhere else. That's you know, that's really low. That's slimy, man.
Mm.
And they're doing that with the assistance of some very, very complicit black people who will do anything, facilitate our exploitation for their butter biscuits and pats on the head, man.
Or as you like to say, bootlicking.
Boot licking, no good, no account house Negroes. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's what they are. You
So you
know,
know.
so I started with the film. Oh, let me say this. And
Let's
the
see.
film opened me up to politics. I was never involved in politics, never cared about it.
Right.
I
Right.
really didn't. You know, I felt like they all was lousy. But while making the film, I met Coleman Young II.
Yep.
And he was
From
so
Detroit, right?
from Detroit. His
Mhm.
father was the first black mayor. And man, I just something told me, yo, I gotta get with this guy. Didn't know anything about him. I ended up being the number one backer in his run for mayor. He didn't succeed. Then he turned around, ran for Congress, and I backed him with that. But the DNC was so strong. That's when I realized how rigged all of this is. Even when you have a candidate that resonates with the people, reflects their interests, the way to do it is that they'll run so many black candidates to split the black vote that a non-black candidate can get elected in a predominantly black district. And this is how Rashida Tlaib got sent to Congress because so many black people split the vote. And she's here talking to all these black people about Palestine and issues at the border. But meanwhile, the 13th district in Michigan was the second poorest district in the country. And she had no plan to talking points to address that. And a lot of them have gotten away with something similar by simply bad mouthing Trump. He's a bad guy. He's a racist. But what did you do? Trump's a bad guy. He's a racist. What did you do? Trump's a racist. We got to get rid of Trump. And that's you know, and whether that's true or not, what did you do
Mm.
for my vote? I don't want to hear about Trump. I didn't vote for him. I voted for you. What did you do except talk about Trump? Did you do
Mm.
anything to earn that check you got? And they deflect. They're always fighting racism. The fight against racism is like the fight against terrorism. It's everywhere. We'll never end this war. You understand what I'm saying? When you want to invade a country, you just go after some terrorists. And when you want to steal a vote, you go after racists. And that's how this works in this country.
It's a, it's, and like I said, like that, like reading your feeds and stuff like that. And so what I'm seeing now is there's a lot of, I guess the word is, I don't want to say movement because that's kind of cliche, but there's a lot of a groundswell, if you will, of that type of mentality and thought between, with you got Mr. Whitlock, you got Barrington, and it's a couple others. Do
It's
you
quite a
call?
few. It's growing. I'm encouraged. Don't forget the old elder Judge Joe Brown. You know what I mean?
I was looking at your interview earlier
Yeah,
today. He's sharp. He's a sharp, like a
yeah.
stern. Always has eye contact. He's just and I
He's
always
a
tell people,
vet, man. He's a
yeah,
vet.
yeah.
He's a vet, bro. I
He's
talked. I talked to him about 2 weeks ago on the phone, and I was just listening to him, and I was in awe because the way he recited and yo, man, he knows his recall. That
yeah.
guy's in his 70s, man, and his brain is so sharp. I know he must have been terror.
When he was
What? Because
yeah.
as sharp as he is right now, like, yeah. And I told after he said that to me, after we were talking, I said, you know what, Judge, man, I don't want you to take it the wrong way, man, but I hope when I get your age, if I get your age, that I could be as sharp as you are, man. Yeah, like I said, because for your age, man, I said, I'm sitting there like, God damn, man. Was he drinking ginkgo biloba? Like
No,
no,
he
no.
just he's very direct, he's sharp. You can just feel it. Like, and it's I'll try to tell, like, even if you don't necessarily have to agree with what he says, the way he says it is powerful. And that's what you got to judge people on. But you know what, Mr. Scoon, it's getting late. So, and I could, like I said, I could definitely talk. It's just such a, like I said, it just feels like I'm talking to my uncle. It's just a man of respect and authenticated, as I like to call him, with realness. And that's, I really appreciate you reaching out to me. We're going to do some quick word associations, okay? You just give me
Go on, let's do it. Look,
just quickly what you think. When I'm going to say a phrase and you're going to give me like quickly what you think, all right? First one, woke.
Sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not really woke. They're the antonym. Look, they sleepwalking. They think they're woke, but go ahead. Look.
Okay. Biden.
Senile. He has cognitive issues for sure. I'm nervous. I want to know who's really running the country because it ain't him.
Okay. All right. Trump.
Didn't know when to shut up, man. He just talked too much.
Okay.
The fact that he wasn't a politician worked for him and worked against him.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Lomachenko.
Hype, 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 hype. You can't get a title shot in your second pro fight. You can't be 14-2 and be compared to some of the greats like Muhammad Ali and Floyd. I mean, come on, man. He's a good fighter. I don't take that from him. I just think the praise was premature. Some would say it's racist. To a degree it is, but really it's economic. They know that to keep boxing alive, they have to get fans of every persuasion. And someone like a Lomachenko or a Tyson Fury, they would do a lot to bring in some white fans and white dollars. And what that really says is that people actually do identify with people who look like them. It doesn't mean that they're hateful, but you cannot ignore ethnicity and race. Just because you're not hateful doesn't mean you don't have a preference. You understand? Yeah. And not everybody, but most people do have a preference. They marry people that look like them. They have kids that look like them. And most of their friends look like them. Do they have friends that don't look like them? Sure. But most people, the majority of their friends look just like them. And we are free to make friends with who we want and choose. But we'll always kind of end up with people who look like us. So there's a lot of tribalism in humanity. And there's and it makes no sense to deny it. But go ahead.
No, that was it. That was it, man. You nailed it. I got the
Oh.
Lomachenko one on you.
You threw me a layup with that one. You knew what was gonna happen. I was like, shit.
Definitely. So, Mr. Schoon, thank you so much. Like I said, we definitely got to do this again because we've only touched the surface, and it's
Look, 3-4 months. We didn't talk about my website, ScoonTV.com.
Oh, I'm going to let you plug everything that's going on
Okay.
with it, and but no, I just want to say thank you once again for
You got it, bro.
I really appreciate it, and I want you right now. Go ahead and plug. Do it the Queen's way, like Russell Simmons. He plugs everything, so do it the Queen's way.
Yeah, you got to. ScoonTV.com. It's a news outlet, media. I got published journalists that wrote for the Wall Street Journal, Forbes Magazine, Daily Caller, and Black Enterprise, Playboy, all of that. I got contributors that I pay, and I don't shape the narrative. You'll find views from the left, right, and center in my town hall section, but we are also a news aggregator site like Drudge or and so on and so forth, where you can find articles. What we cover is business, politics, and social issues. No entertainment, no sports. Again, everything I do kind of caters to a certain level of seriousness and serious mindedness. We have different levels of subscriptions, free and paid. The free subscription, you get our newsletter. The primary subscription, you get my vlogs and outtakes from our films and documentaries and behind the scene footage. And then my presidential level, you get it all. Everything in the primary and the free, plus access to see my movies for free, exclusive interviews, and what have you. Yeah, a whole lot of stuff. And I'm constantly generating content. It's important. I have my own server. We need to have more media outlets because there's 5 companies that control all of media in the United States. And what that means is we don't get information, we get propaganda. Because certain information are just not permitted. So a little site like mine, which has been seen and visited in over 70 countries worldwide, 3,000 cities worldwide, it might be a beacon of hope. And of course, I'm going to address things that we need addressed that no one else would address for us.
No doubt, no doubt. Like I said, please go to his Twitter handle, ScoonTV. Go to the website, premium content. Get the presidential package. Like you said, Curtis, it's a pleasure speaking with you, bro. I really enjoyed this, and definitely got to do it again. And you know what? How about this? You know what? We should do it again right before the Wilder Fury fight, so we can.
Yeah. And don't forget my IG is ScoonTV. My YouTube channel is ScoonTV. We just did Facebook, the ScoonTV network, and check us out, man. We're busy, we're working hard, and we're doing it for the culture, for real, the real culture. All right.
No doubt, no doubt. Mr. Schoon, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. While this way, we are out. Peace.
Have a good night.